Too many gardeners waste weeks, even months, obsessing over hot compost piles, flipping them constantly, and measuring temperatures like they're performing a science experiment. The reality is that hot composting can do more harm than good if you're not careful. High heat kills the delicate fungal networks that actually build long-term soil health, burns away slow-release nutrients, and leaves soil that feeds plants briefly but doesn't sustain them. The result? Plants that grow fast at first but struggle in drier conditions, poor moisture retention, and soil that degrades season after season. If you're serious about growing food that thrives year after year, you need to slow down. And yes, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because I'm going to show you a method that outperforms traditional hot composting while keeping your garden soil alive and thriving. Also, there's a tool I've been using that makes monitoring slow soil effortless. The RioTemp 36-inch Fahrenheit Backyard Pro Compost Thermometer with digital composting guide. The link is in the description if you want to check it out. Hot compost isn't the magic solution everyone claims. The conventional advice goes like this: hit 140 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, mix greens and browns perfectly, and turn regularly. That works in theory, but in practice it's often overkill. In my own raised beds, piles left to overheat end up smelling and losing critical nutrients. Most importantly, the high temperatures wipe out fungal populations that are key for breaking down complex organics and feeding plants gradually. Fungi take their time, but their work lasts for months, even years. Without them, your soil may appear fertile, but won't retain water or nutrients effectively, forcing you to rely on quick-fix fertilizers season after season. Fungi-rich soil is slower but far more powerful. Here's the trick I've honed over years in my backyard, raised beds, and even in hydroponic media. Slow decomposition dominated by fungi, not bacteria, is what builds real, resilient soil. Leaf mold, chopped woody material, and other high-carbon inputs don't heat up much, but they create a living network in the soil. In my raised beds, I mix partially decomposed leaves at roughly a 2-to-1 ratio with the existing soil. This improves moisture retention, creates a soft, crumbly texture, and encourages deep, healthy root growth. In hydroponic or container systems, I blend leaf mold at about 10 to 15% by volume into cocoa or peat mixes. The results are immediate. Seedlings grow strong, nutrient uptake is steady, and the soil environment becomes self-regulating. Stop obsessing over temperatures and focus on materials. While some gardeners rely heavily on compost thermometers for slow fungal-based soil, heat is irrelevant. Consistency is the key. Your pile should stay cool, moist, and shaded. That's why I still use a thermometer, specifically the RioTemp 36-inch Fahrenheit Backyard Pro, to check that piles haven't unintentionally heated up or dried out. Its 36-inch stem lets you reach deep into large piles, and the included digital guide gives expert advice on maintaining structure and moisture. In slow fungal soil, the thermometer isn't measuring a target temperature, it's a quality control tool. Alright, so here's how to create a slow, fungal-rich soil pile. First, you want to collect leaves. Oak, maple, and beech work best, and shred them if you can, though honestly, it's not essential. Just pile them up in a shaded spot, keeping them lightly moist. If it gets too wet, they'll rot anaerobically, and if it's too dry, well, decomposition just stalls out. In my own backyard, I usually layer about 4 to 6 inches of leaves right on top of the garden soil in autumn, then cover them lightly with straw or even some cardboard. Over the next 6 to 12 months, fungi will colonize the pile, slowly breaking down the leaves into this really dark, crumbly humus. Unlike hot compost, this method actually preserves nutrients and builds long-term structure that feeds your plants over several seasons. So let's talk about how to use these slow soil amendments in your garden. Once the material is ready, meaning it's dark, spongy, and crumbly, you can just work it right into your beds. In smaller backyard gardens, I usually mix it at about 2 parts leaf mold to 1 part existing soil. For raised beds, 2 to 4 inches layered on top each year does the trick, and you just let natural watering and planting work it in. If you're working with containers or even hydroponics, mixing in about 10 to 15% leaf mold by volume is plenty. The main idea here is slow nutrient release. You're feeding the soil itself, not just dumping nutrients in for the plants. Over time, this really builds an ecosystem where roots can access nutrients steadily, moisture is held in, and your plants just end up a lot more resilient. So, why does slow soil beat hot compost in the long run? Well, hot compost is quick, but honestly, speed isn't everything. High heat mostly favors bacteria and those quickly soluble nutrients, which can just leach away or even volatilize. Fungal-rich soil, on the other hand, stores nutrients in a slow-release form and builds structure that actually improves water retention and root penetration. In my experience, working with several raised beds, slow soil amendments consistently produce deeper roots, stronger growth, and higher yields than beds that rely only on hot compost. Plus, leaf mold helps buffer extremes in moisture and temperature, which is really handy in raised beds or potted plants that are out in the sun and wind. So let's talk about some common mistakes folks make when trying the slow method. Honestly, overwatering is probably the biggest error. It's easy to do. If your leaf pile gets too soggy, it goes anaerobic, starts to smell, and, well, attracts pests you really don't want. Another thing is impatience. Too often gardeners get eager and turn the pile or add nitrogen way too soon. You really need to let fungi do their work. Any disturbance just slows them down. Oh, and you should avoid mixing too many fresh greens like grass clippings or kitchen scraps directly into your leaf piles. Those favor bacteria over fungi, which really undermines the slow soil advantage you're after. The whole point here is gradual, consistent decomposition. Now let's look at how you can combine hot compost and slow soil amendments. This isn't about giving up on hot compost altogether. I still use hot compost for kitchen scraps or whenever I need nutrients to become available quickly. The real trick is finding a balance. What I do is layer about 3 inches of hot compost with 3 inches of leaf mold in my raised beds. The hot compost gives plants an immediate boost, while the leaf mold works over the long haul to build healthier soil. This way your plants grow fast, but you're not sacrificing root structure or soil resilience in the process. Using tools to manage slow soil effectively is, honestly, a real game changer. Even slow soil benefits from monitoring. I use the RioTemp 36-inch Backyard Pro thermometer, not to chase heat, but to track moisture indirectly and make sure nothing is drying out or overheating accidentally. Its long stem reaches deep into piles, and the clear dial makes reading simple. I've linked it in the description. For anyone managing large backyard piles, it's worth the investment. When to apply slow soil amendments for best results is something folks often wonder about. Timing matters. Apply leaf mold or slow soil in late autumn or winter so fungi can establish over the cooler months. By spring, beds are alive, ready and balanced. In raised beds, 2 to 4 inches top-dressed each year works well. For pots or small containers, 15 to 20% leaf mold mixed into the growing media improves water retention and buffers nutrients. This is especially effective for sensitive crops or during hot spells. Slow soil is about long-term investment. This method requires patience. Full benefits can take 6 to 12 months, but once established, beds practically manage themselves. Water retention improves, soil structure stabilizes, and roots grow deeper and more evenly. You're feeding the soil, not just the plants. That's the difference. The soil becomes self-sustaining, and your garden becomes less dependent on synthetic inputs. Final thoughts. Slow down to grow better. If you're tired of chasing hot compost temperatures and losing nutrients, embrace slow, fungal-rich soil. Collect leaves, maintain light moisture, and let fungi do the heavy lifting. Use hot compost sparingly for rapid nutrient needs, but let slow soil amendments build the foundation of your garden. For precision monitoring, the RioTemp 36-inch Fahrenheit Backyard Pro Compost Thermometer with digital composting guide, linked in the description, makes managing even large piles effortless. If this method makes sense to you, subscribe to Farm Logic for more practical, results-driven gardening strategies. Share this video with your fellow gardeners so more people can grow healthier plants, build soil that sustains itself, and enjoy better harvests without constant intervention.